Have you ever witnessed an act of such blatant cruelty that it took your breath away? Have you seen someone's spirit targeted and demeaned simply for being different? This is the story of Aiden, a young athlete whose passion for running was almost extinguished by the prejudice of a coach. Prepare yourself for a powerful journey of injustice, resilience, and the unwavering support that can help someone reclaim their voice, even without saying a word. My coach called my cousin the mute after he fell during a race, with blood on his knee. He said, "Now I have a good reason to cut the mute from my team." When my aunt asked him why he hated Aiden so much, he smirked and said, "You embarrassed me." Aiden didn't say a word. That was 8 weeks ago. Yesterday, he saw my cousin's name on the state qualifier board and went completely still. My cousin Aiden has a mild speech disorder and some processing delays. Sometimes, when he gets overwhelmed, he repeats phrases to himself. This has been very challenging for him, especially in school, but not on the track. He's one of the most dedicated athletes I've ever seen, and if you saw him run, you would understand why we always said his legs speak for him. Aiden spent most of his school years in special ED, but finally transferred to our public high school last year. The administration pushed for it, saying it would help him socialize more, and that he could finally join the track team. We were cautious, but excited. My aunt spent weeks helping him prepare. He memorized bus schedules, practiced locker combinations, and even rehearsed how to ask to use the bathroom. Everything turned out well. The head coach, Miss Jameson, paired him with a student mentor who made visual cue cards just for him. And Aiden crushed the 5,000 trials. He made varsity in 3 weeks, and the older guys on the team started calling him the machine. Then, Miss Jameson went on maternity leave, and the assistant coach, Mr. Dwyer, took over. On his first day, he told the whole team that things were going to tighten up, that everyone had to meet his standards, no exceptions. He started by calling Aiden out in front of the team. "You don't need cue cards. You need to listen." Then, he took away the visual aids that the student mentor had approved and told Aiden to keep up or get left behind. The next week, he made Aiden run an entire set of bleacher drills twice because he was slow to respond. When my aunt emailed him, he said Aiden needed real-world expectations. The principal said something about letting the new coach find his footing. I started showing up to practice when I could to watch everything that was happening. Aiden started timing his runs slower. He flinched more, and his old nervous tic of rubbing his fingers together came back. But the worst thing was that he stopped looking up. Aiden always made eye contact when he was proud. Now, he refused to meet my eyes. I noticed other changes too. The walls of his bedroom, once covered with track meet photos and running posters gradually became bare as he took things down one by one. At home, he started spending more time in his room with the door closed. We used to hear him running in the morning, but even that became less frequent. My aunt would make his favorite meals, but his plate would remain mostly full. The light that had sparked in him was dimming, and we all saw it happening, but felt powerless to stop it. Then came the regional qualifiers. Aiden's 10K time was the second best in the district, so much so that on paper, there was no way to deny him a slot at the meet. But Dwyer tried anyway. At a meeting my aunt attended to defend Aiden, he said he was worried about Aiden's performance under pressure. My aunt brought stats, emails, even a note from Miss Jameson supporting his placement. It was so overwhelming that the school overruled DWIRE, so Aiden made it to regionals. "Fine," Dwyer had said, "but when he freezes up out there, that's on you, not me." The night before the race, I picked Aiden up from practice, and he typed something on his phone and showed it to me. "Do I have to go?" I asked why he was asking that. He typed, "If I mess up, I'm off the team." I wanted to turn the car around and drag Dwyer out of that gym myself, but I settled for reassuring Aiden that he had earned his spot, and that whatever happened, we had his back.
The next day, my aunt and I showed up with signs that said, "Go machine, run your race." The bleachers were packed. I saw Dwyer pacing the sidelines with a clipboard. Aiden stood with the team, stretching. Then I saw Dwyer pull him aside right before the race. I couldn't hear everything, but I was close enough to catch the end. "If you embarrass me out there, you're done. Do you understand?" Aiden looked calm on the outside, but I saw him rubbing his fingers together. I could tell he was retreating into himself, building walls to keep his anxiety away. When Dwyer finished speaking, he gave Aiden a pat on the back that was more of a shove, sending him stumbling slightly forward before he caught himself. When the race started, Aiden was steady, but around lap 3, someone dropped a water bottle near the track, and the sound made him twitch. Lap 4, he began rubbing his fingers and his strides got erratic. Dwyer yelled from the sideline, "Push through it!" Lap 5, he tripped, and a collective gasp rose from the crowd. Then I saw the red of blood on his knee and elbow. No one moved at first, but Dwyer seemed pleased, and I heard him say, "Now I have a good reason to cut the mute from my team." The words hit me like a physical blow. The casual cruelty, the deliberate dehumanization of my cousin. It was breathtaking in its malice. This wasn't tough coaching or pushing an athlete to excel. This was targeted abuse of a vulnerable student by someone in a position of authority. Dwyer's expression as he watched Aiden struggle to continue was one of satisfaction, not of concern. He made no move to check on his injured athlete, offered no encouragement or support. Instead, he continued making notes on his clipboard, occasionally glancing at his stopwatch with a smirk that made my blood boil. The remaining laps were a testament to Aiden's determination, rather than his athletic ability. His form was compromised by pain and the psychological impact of the fall. Blood trickled down his leg from his injured knee, leaving faint marks on the track with each step. His breathing was labored, his pace significantly slower than his qualifying times. Yet, he continued. Each step seemed to require conscious effort, each lap an exercise in pure willpower. The crowd, recognizing his struggle, began to cheer specifically for him. Not the polite encouragement of earlier, but genuine support for his refusal to quit. Parents from other schools joined in, creating a wave of positive energy that seemed to carry him forward when his body wanted to stop. I watched Aiden finish the race, his face a mask of pain and determination, and knew something had to change. The aftermath was immediate and intense. Aiden's aunt filed a formal complaint that same day, with my detailed documentation of Dwyer's behavior attached. The school administration, finally recognizing the severity of the situation, placed Dwyer on administrative leave, pending investigation. Miss Jameson, hearing what had happened, volunteered to return early from maternity leave to take over the team. The hours following the race were a blur of activity. As soon as Aiden crossed the finish line, last in his heat, but upright and moving under his own power, we rushed to meet him. The medical tent was our first stop, where a volunteer nurse cleaned and bandaged his injury. The antiseptic smell mixed with the metallic scent of blood as she worked, her movements efficient but gentle. Aiden sat silently on the examination table, his eyes fixed on a point in the distance, his body trembling slightly from the adrenaline crash and pain. My aunt's face was a study in controlled fury as she helped Aiden change into clean clothes, careful to avoid his bandaged elbow and knee. Her movements were measured, her voice soft as she spoke to him. But I could see the rage building behind her calm exterior. When Aiden was settled in a chair with a sports drink and an ice pack, she turned to me. "I need you to tell me exactly what you heard Dwyer say," she said, her voice low and intense. Word for word, I recounted everything. The threat before the race, the continuous shouting during Aiden's struggle, and finally, the damning statement about cutting the mute from the team. With each detail, my aunt's expression hardened, her lips pressing into a thin line, her hands clenching and unclenching at her sides. "Stay with him," she instructed, pulling her phone from her purse. "I'm calling Principal Winters right now." She stepped outside the medical tent, but I could still hear fragments of her conversation. Terms like discrimination, hostile environment, and legal action, cutting through the ambient noise of the meet continuing around us. When she returned, her face was flushed but composed. "The principal wants to meet us at the school in an hour," she informed me. "I need you to write down everything you witnessed, as detailed as possible. Dates, times, exact quotes, if you can remember them." The school parking lot was nearly empty when we arrived, most staff having left for the weekend. Principal Winters met us at the main entrance, his face grave as he unlocked the door. The hallways were eerily quiet, our footsteps echoing off the lockers lining the walls. The smell of industrial cleaner hung in the air, mixed with the faint mustiness that seems inherent to all school buildings. The meeting in Winter's office was tense but productive. My aunt presented our documentation methodically. My written account of Dwyer's behavior. Screenshots of emails that she had sent expressing concerns about his coaching methods. Even a voice recording from a parent who had overheard similar comments at a previous meet. The principal's expression grew increasingly troubled as the evidence mounted. "This is concerning," he admitted, removing his glasses to rub the bridge of his nose. "Very concerning." "Concerning isn't the word I'd use," my aunt replied, her voice steady but cold. "It's discriminatory, it's abusive, and it's potentially illegal under the Americans with Disabilities Act." The mention of legal implications seemed to galvanize Winters into action. By the end of the meeting, he had committed to placing Dwyer on immediate administrative leave, pending a full investigation. He also promised to contact Miss Jameson about returning early to take over the team. "I want to assure you that we take these allegations very seriously," he said as we prepared to leave. "This is not what our school stands for." My aunt fixed him with a level gaze. "With all due respect, Principal Winters, what your school stands for will be determined by your actions now, not your words." The drive home was quiet, Aiden dozing in the back seat, exhausted from the physical and emotional ordeal of the day. The setting sun cast long shadows across the road, the golden light a stark contrast to the darkness of the day's event. My aunt drove with both hands gripping the steering wheel, her posture rigid, her focus intense. "Do you think they'll actually do anything?" I asked quietly, careful not to wake Aiden. She glanced at me briefly before returning her attention to the road. "They will," she said with quiet certainty, "because if they don't, I'll make sure everyone in this district knows exactly what kind of man they have coaching their children." Aiden's physical wounds healed quickly. The scrapes on his knee and elbow scabbed over within days, but the emotional damage ran deeper. For weeks after the incident, he remained withdrawn, his confidence shattered. He still went to practice, still ran his drills, but the joy was gone from his movements. He ran like someone fulfilling an obligation, not someone pursuing a passion. The physical healing process was visible and straightforward. Each day, the angry red of his scrapes faded slightly, the scabs gradually shrinking until they flaked away, leaving behind new pink skin that would eventually blend with the surrounding tissue. My aunt carefully cleaned and rebandaged the wounds each night, applying antibiotic ointment with gentle fingers, murmuring words of encouragement as she worked. But the emotional healing was less linear, marked by good days and bad, progress and setbacks. Some mornings, Aiden would rise early for a run, his movement